This is Doug Howard from Growth Team Strategies with another episode of Selling the Dream. I'm here with my co-host, the effervescent, is that a word? Effervescent Kathi Fleck from Texas, always bringing her insights, enthusiasm, and humor to the table. And today we're very excited because we have a special guest. We have Paula Kruger from IAG M&A Company, which is a firm that we've worked with before. Kathi has. So first of all, co-host Kathi, welcome. Glad to see you.
It's good to see you again, and you too, Paula.
Thank you
for having us.
Yeah, and Paula, thanks for being here. We know you keep extraordinarily busy, and we appreciate your being part of the discussion.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So we want to start out. So just so people know that, and Kathi, I'll let you kind of set the stage, but when you sold your business, right, you were working with Paula as the M&A person. That's how Paula and I got to know each other as well. And just talk a little bit about that. And then we want to hear from Paula, what are the things that really are important when someone's thinking of selling, what they should be thinking about in working with a company, any kind of M&A or brokerage company, and what kind of things really separate a good seller or a ready seller from someone that's maybe selling themselves short, if you will, by just not having things in order. So Kathi, you want to kick us off?
Sure. Well, I had first started working with IAG several years before and found that I wasn't ready to sell. And so I came back a year before I met Paula and tried again and wasn't quite happy with the broker that I got. So I just kind of put things off. And then Paula and I started working together right before COVID. So it was January of 2020. And I was ready. I knew that time frame was ready. And then I was assigned to Paula, or Paula was assigned to me. And we just hit it off right away. So I knew I had somebody that I could work with, that I could have the support from, and that could take me down that path. So I think that connection is really important. Not everybody feels that connection with the representative that they're going to work with. So to me, that was a help. And then Paula also had businesses and had sold them and had been working in this capacity for some time. So I just really felt confident working with her.
Nice. And Paula, it seems like it was super important you came on the scene, right? So what do you, when you're first talking to somebody, when you're first trying to kind of size things up, what are some of the early things that you look for just to get a level of, understanding about how serious they are, how ready they are, things they need to be thinking about?
Yeah, that's first and foremost, how serious they are about selling the business. Are they really mentally ready? Because most entrepreneurs start their business and then they nurture it and grow it. And then it gets to the point where they're ready to sell. And that's a scary prospect. Most sellers only sell their company one time in their lives. It's a process they're not familiar with. They are attached to their company, their employees. And then the prospect of selling the business gets to be a little scary right there at the end when it seems like it could really happen. So I like to know that the seller is mentally prepared to sell their company. And if they're not, then they should take the time to get ready. But if they are, in fact, mentally satisfied that this is the right time, as Kathi was saying, she went through a few iterations before she got to that point for various reasons. But once you're ready, then that's a good time for us to work together.
Yeah, and I think it's more than just about the money, right? It's we subscribe to a program called Value Builder, and one of the assessments they give is what they call the pre-score, and it's really an evaluation of how ready people are based on what are they going towards, right? There are statistics that show if you're selling your business to do something else, to move on to travel or grandkids or another business opportunity, you're infinitely more motivated and you're infinitely more satisfied after the sale than if you're selling it because you just think it's hit a high water mark or you have health issues or something else. Right? So
absolutely right.
I think that's a big factor. So what do you look for? I mean, when someone says, okay, I'm serious, you get the feeling that they are, you have that conversation. What are some things that distinguish someone that's, going to be a good candidate to actually get the business sold for maybe someone that's going to be struggling more to get it done?
Well, if someone's been working on an exit strategy and is very well organized with their financials, with the real estate, with their employees, and they really are prepared, that's paramount. Because, for example, financials, if they don't have their financials in order, that's a disaster, because the first step in selling your company is having an expert prepare a valuation of your company. So you know what it's really worth. And if your financials are not in good shape, that can't be done properly. And so it's important for you to know, is this company now valued at a rate that is going to help me do whatever I want to do in the next chapter? As you were saying, do they want to retire? Do they want to buy another business? What's the plan? And so you need to know, is this company, when I sell it, going to enable me to execute that plan? So having organized financials, knowing your financials, having consistency in the performance of your business as demonstrated in your financials, that's all extremely important. And that was something that Kathi was very much on top of. When it came time to interact with the buyers, the prospective buyers, it's very common for them to follow up and ask for additional financials.
Right.
And if you wait a long time and they're waiting a week or two, they move on to look at other businesses.
Yeah.
There are lots of businesses for sale, and buyers are not going to wait around weeks for you to get the information to them.
Now,
So
Paula, do you feel like they move on because they're just moving through different opportunities, or do you think they move on sometimes because they get concerned that maybe they're losing confidence in your ability to produce quality information?
yeah, both. Both.
Okay.
Rarely is a buyer looking at just one business at the outset.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They look at several. And then the responsive seller is the one that's going to grab their attention and give them confidence that this business is well run. Because throughout the entire process, a buyer is assessing how well run your company is. Can
Sure.
they depend on the information that you're providing to them?
Yeah. Now, Kathi, when you went through that experience, what was your experience in working with some of the prospective buyers once they got past that first phase, right? They saw the valuation, they saw some of the marketing material, and then they're asking you questions or they're connecting with you. Like, what was that like from your side?
Well, as you're asking the question, I'm thinking of several opportunities that came up when we first were started. I kind of look at it like a first date. If somebody doesn't have a date to the prom, they're kind of a little bit antsy, and we're going to take whoever's going to come along. So I think that was kind of
I
my
thought I
feeling.
told you to leave my stories out of this.
I
We
think
had
that
a, we had an agreement. Okay. Yeah.
was
Okay.
kind of my feeling at the first. I didn't know what to do, and I was going to grab onto whoever came.
There
But it
you
was
go.
also COVID year, so we're looking at 2020, and the opportunities were kind of slim at the beginning. So
Yeah.
we had one opportunity where a couple gentlemen submitted a letter of intent right away, and Paula didn't even have a chance to have much interaction. I didn't speak with them at all. And so I'm scrambling with an attorney and to try to get this letter of intent actualized. And it was really just a waste of time and money for me as well as for them, because who knows where they were going. There were several others that I spoke with and I met with in person. And, it's kind of like we were each trying to make something work and it wasn't just clicking. So when the actual buyer came along, there was another opportunity that came about at the same time. And Paul and I discussed who's the better choice, who's going to be able to take this through. And, there were pros and cons for both of them. And we just felt that the one that we chose had the better closure opportunity. And that's kind of where we were going. So it is a bit of a process to find the right one as well, because if I'm putting my time and effort into a potential buyer and it falls through, I've got to start over again. I don't have somebody else waiting in the wings because, as Paula mentioned, they're going to be looking at other opportunities, and I can't have several people looking at the same time.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because on the one side, they're evaluating us as sellers. right? But then we're also having to kind of evaluate them as how serious they are and how
Mhm.
capable they are to buy as well,
Right.
right? And really, it's got to be the right fit both ways.
Mhm.
Sure. Those conversations that we have, those conference calls, the seller has to keep in mind that those initial calls are calls that give them an opportunity to assess the buyer, just as the buyer will assess the seller. And also, it's really important to remember that you're marketing your company. I've had
Mhm.
sellers that love to tell all the hurdles that they have to overcome to succeed.
Yes.
And that's not the time to talk about the Herculean efforts that you went through to build your business. That's the time to talk about the opportunities, what growth potential there is, etc. So the seller has to keep in mind that they are also part of the marketing process.
Sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, and it's a balance, right? Because you
Yeah,
can't be too Pollyannish, you can't be too over the top. You know, people want to make sure that what you think the growth potential is believable, it's
yeah.
realistic, right?
And always be honest.
Right. By the same token, though, they have to feel like they're going to be able to take this thing and move it in a positive direction.
Yeah.
I did say the other day, I don't know if it's true, but it's been, at least my experience, most of the sellers, I mean, most of the buyers I meet, I think they're a little bit smarter than most of the sellers. They kind of look at something and go, okay, well, I see what they did, but this is what I would do.
Mhm.
That's
And,
true.
and that can really spur some thought. One of the questions, and I know, Paula, we've done some work with some of your clients, right? When we do
Yeah.
the value builder assessments and things like that. One of the questions I love to ask a seller is, because a lot of times by the time they're ready to sell, they may be less motivated to make a lot of changes, even though there are some things that could maybe help move the needle, right?
Yeah.
So I always love to ask them, if you had 10 more years, right? If you were going to be doing this 10 more years, what are the 3 or 4 things you'd be doing right now to
Hmm.
grow this business that you're not doing because you don't want to be here 2 years from
Right.
now, right? And it's amazing how many times I hear, well, we're really not in the best location. We should be over here. Or we could be working more with contractors and we're working simply with homeowners, or vice versa. Or there's a line, that our manufacturer offers that we've never really sold, but I would dig into that, you know. But to me, those also help tell the story of where that potential buyer could go, you
Hmm.
know, if they decided to move forward,
Right.
right?
But that's also not the time for them to take their foot off the pedal, because if their revenue starts going down while a buyer is looking, they're wondering, is this business in decline?
Yeah,
So, the best thing for any seller to do is to continue to pursue all those opportunities to grow the business. That's really vital. And the other thing is not to try to limit the amount of taxes that you're going to pay, because every dollar that goes to the bottom line, if you save it on your taxes by your deductibles and whatnot, you're going to save 50 cents on the dollar. But we as brokers can get you $3 for every dollar on the bottom line. So I had one buyer that was absolutely thrilled with himself and his accountant. He was able to take his net income down from 200,000 to under 100,000, and that severely reduced the value of his company.
Mhm.
yeah. So you're saying it's a good time to do your patriotic duty, is what you're saying,
Yes,
right? Right?
that's correct.
Yeah, you can either buy war bonds or no, I get you. No, but it's interesting because at the same time, you know, and I have a lot of people that, and I've seen this over the years when I had my accounting practice, when people would want to say whether they were selling the business or going for a loan.
Mhm.
Well, this is what we're doing, but really we do more than that.
Yeah,
Now we had a very high ethical standard. If they weren't really reporting things correctly, we didn't work with them.
yeah,
But sometimes just by taking really aggressive tax strategies, they were doing things they were allowed to do. But
exactly.
again, they were still showing a representation of the company that
Yeah.
didn't really reflect how profitable,
Hmm.
it could
Yeah,
be.
yeah,
Right. And
yeah,
so, yeah, so I think that's
yeah. That's a mistake. So yeah, the goal is to keep your revenue growing if
yeah,
possible, your income, your net income, as high as possible. Your financial statements have to be accurate. And one thing that also needs to be addressed is your physical plan. I was selling a company not far from where Kathy's office was located, and he was a manufacturer of parts. And so I walked in to the lobby, and there in the lobby were all these extraneous desks kind of piled up high.
Mm.
And everywhere, every room I went into was just a mess.
Mm.
And I explained to him that really, you have to think of it as though you're selling your house. If you walk in and the house is a mess and things are packed everywhere, it's very off-putting to a
Yes.
buyer.
Mhm.
Everything is not neat and organized, and then they start to wonder about, hey, are your books as sloppy as your plant?
Yeah.
So I would suggest that you take a look around if you do have a real estate that's included or even going to be leased by the new buyer, and make sure that it's presentable.
That's great advice. All right. Kathi, any last thoughts on sort of
Well,
this
I
topic?
think one of the points that Paula made just now too, and she and I talked about, is you are continually in the sales process, even though you decide to put your business on the market to sell. The entire time is a sales process. And I think not only running the business, but making sure that you're presenting yourself and your opportunities in the best light. I just think that's crucial for any buyer, any seller, and any buyer.
Well said.
Yeah. All right. Paula, last thoughts?
The last thought would be make sure you have a strong team behind you to help you get through the process. Your contribution to Kathi was critical, as was a good lawyer and a good accountant.
Mm-hmm.
And make sure you have those lined up, and preferably professionals who have been involved in this kind of a transaction in the past, not your brother-in-law who does divorce law. It's got to be someone who's an expert in helping clients sell businesses.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Well, Paula, thank you so much for being with us. We
Thank you.
appreciate it very much. It's always fun to work together. Kathi, it's always great to spend some time together. And
Thank
you
you.
laugh every time I say that, which makes
I
me think
know.
maybe it's
You're
not
so
great.
complimentary.
Yeah. All right. Doug Howard, Selling the Dream, and we will see you again soon.
Thank you for listening to the Selling the Dream podcast, starring Doug Howard and Kathi Fleck. Both Doug and Kathi have built and sold successful businesses and hope this podcast will help other small business owners do the same. Tune in every week to hear more tips for increasing the value of your company so you get the highest return for your years of hard work when it comes time to sell or transition your business. Can't wait till next week? Check out our website for more information at www.growththemes.com.